Well, hello guys, this is the Betamax man. This is not just a ordinary Sony Betamax VCR. This is a Sony SL-HF2000, not to be confused with the SL-2000. The SL-2000 was a portable unit. This is a SL-HF2000. This is, of course, a Super Beta Hi-Fi. But what makes this machine special is the fact that this is the very last Sony Betamax VCR to roll off the assembly line. This is the very last and only Betamax VCR ever made for the United States and Canada. They did, and I don't know about the UK. I suppose the UK's got a different model in mind. But I think the UK didn't get betas up until 93. But I know that the US and Canada, this was the last beta machine. If we flip this down, you can see that there is a tape stuck inside of it. Now, this machine, this is the last machine. This was manufactured in 1993. Now, the SL-2100, which is the last high-end deck, which was manufactured in 1991, that one had a touch screen on this door here. On the 2100, you flip the door down and you've got touch screens. And it's touch button, a feather touch control. There's no buttons like on the 2000. The 2000, this is basically a stripped down version of the 2100. Now, this is not really a special machine because it is just a two-head machine. And this one does have Super Beta and it does have Hi-Fi stereo. But it does have the ability to play back Beta 1S as well as the original Beta 1. So you can play back the original Beta 1 and it will play back tapes recorded in the Beta 1S. Now, I do have a lot of tapes that have been recorded in the Beta 1S. And some of the stuff that I have recorded off of TV is gone forever, will never be showed again. And some of the stuff I have that is still available to watch, but on TV. But now, this, of course, only allowing you to have Beta 2 and 3. It'll even tell you right there, only 2 and 3. So, I think when somebody was confused, they thought that they could record in Beta 1 with this machine. And I had to reassure them that, I'm sorry, but you cannot. You can only do 2 and 3, which was the way for most of the Beta machines. The 2100 would allow you to record in the Beta 1S, both the 5.6 and the 6.0 megahertz. Piece of hair there. So it looks like the tape is stuck. Now the tape looks like it's kind of in there, crooked. So it looks like the cassette housing has probably got a broken gear. I don't even know if it powers on. Now, I bought this from an eBay seller. He had it. He said that he had it working, and then he said that when he went to eject, the tape wouldn't come out. And he said that it does power on, and he originally he wanted this for $300, and I was able to talk them down to 200, and so which is great. I don't know why, but these machines always seem to have they come at a very high cost. There is one feature that this machine has that the 1000 never had, and that is that this has got digital automatic tracking, so it will track the tape automatically. And so anyway, but yeah, these things can go anywhere from $5, $6, $7, $8, $900. I think the highest amount of money I seen on this model was like $1,000. And so it's like, well, why do they cost so much money? It's not like it's a forehead or anything like that. It's not a forehead. It can't record in Beta 1S. There's a lot of features that it doesn't have. So for people to want to charge that kind of money for this model, it's absolutely ridiculous. But this model has been on my bucket list for many, many years. And I've never thought that I would ever get one. And here we are today, and I have one. Now, there's a 2100. The 2100 is one I want to get. I really want to have a 2100. And maybe someday, just someday, I'll find one that's broken, that doesn't cost a lot of money, and I can get it going and have one. Now, I was able to get this one, so maybe someday, later down the road, I might be able to get a 2100, but 2100 goes for $1,000 plus. Even ones that don't even work, people are wanting almost $1,000 for them, which is ridiculously insane. I will not pay that kind of money for one. I'm a huge Beta fan. I'm a Beta junkie, but I will never pay that kind of money, because I can't afford to pay that kind of money for one. And for two, it's not worth that kind of money. I don't care how great of a machine it is. It's interesting. This thing does have a tape selector. So if you select it on, say, L750 or L500, this was on an L830 tape selection. This will, and it's on VTR 3, so we're going to put it on VTR 1. So yeah, this does have a feature that the 1000 has, and it's a feature I actually forgot about. But apparently there is some kind of tape remaining indicator on this model, because this will tell you, if you've got an L500 cassette, it'll tell you how many minutes you have left for record time. Maybe this thing has some kind of on-screen display. I don't really know. I don't know a whole lot about this model because I've never had one of these before. So let's go ahead and plug it in. I am going to take the screws off. I'm going to set the camera down and I'm going to take the screws off, and you guys are going to see I took the screws off already. I'm just going to take the top off. Before we do anything. Now, I can see that it is in there crooked. Oh, hey, this is the movie Scarf. It might have some kind of a circuitry problem, because I can see that the tape is starting to unthread, but yeah. And I'm hoping this is something I can repair. Sometimes with electrical issues, you know, if you don't have certain equipment, it's very hard to diagnose certain things. let's go ahead and plug it in. Alright. Okay, I see what's going on. We can fix it. Okay, I think we can get it going. Okay, so you seen what was happening. It wasn't putting the tape back inside the cassette. Now, this may have the same problem that the Sony SLS600s have. And this issue, oh, it does have a tape stabilizer. This might have an issue where the capstan motor, there are surface mounted capacitors and they go bad, and they cause the because this is capstan driven, the capstan motor drives the capstan and it drives the take up and supply reels, and so that might be what's going on. It might be that has, if it has that kind of capacitor or capstan motor in it, it's probably that's what it is. And if that's what it is, this is going to be a very quick, very easy fix. But so it's not loading, it is unthreading, so that's good. But it's not fully ejecting, so it's got a cassette housing problem and it's got a capstan problem. Because I just hope that the capstan, I have one, you know, just in case. I just hope I have a capstan. I hope I can get this thing going. I can get it going if I have the parts. That's the problem. If you don't have the parts, then you can't do anything. Now, this gear is not doing anything. This gear is free spinning. This gear is completely, well, I lifted it up in the thing, so let's get it up out of there. So I'm gonna turn this gear, and that's gonna raise, or no, this is gonna lower it. So I gotta find what way. I'm gonna just grab it and pull it out. I pulled the cassette housing out, and this is what I saw. This gear has fell off. So we gotta figure out why that gear has come off. Now this has got a reel table motor that is, this has the reel table motor is set up the same way that the 711B2 chassis, or the 711B, where it has a direct drive motor with a pendulum gear that goes back and forth. So this is the reason why they, on the original 711B3 design, they had the capstan driving the capstan and both the take up and supply rails. But Sony learned that the capstan motors would fail because of bad caps, and they kind of went back to the original B711B design as far as the reel table motor. So it's probably the Hall effect device that has failed on the motor. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fix it. I don't know if I have one of these motors with the black connector on it, because they have different colored wires, and it's because the signal goes to different areas. So the, like, say pin 1 would be pin 1 on one machine, and pin 1 would connect to, would be number pin 3 instead of pin 1. So the different motors, the different models, they had the wires, the way the wires were routed, they were in different areas. And so there's different colors. There's black, there's white, there's red. So there's a couple different ones. But anyway, So it looks like this side is okay. I think it's just this side that is failed. So we can go ahead and put the gear back on. But I think what has happened here is the cassette basket itself has a broken. There's a tab that pokes through, so that the gear can move the cassette basket up and down. You can see those posts have been sheared off. So before we really get any further, is we need to probably just attempt to load a tape back in so I can see what's going on. But I think I can definitely fix the cassette housing, because I think I have a cassette basket that I can put in this. But it's got the posts have sheared off, and there's nothing for the gear to grab a hold of. But with it being in the home position, we'll put it back in the home position, we'll plug it back in, and we'll put a tape in there. Because it's back to its home position, so I should be able to at least put a cassette in and then see what's going on. So this has got a black connector. So the Hall effect device has failed, and I don't know if I have one. My SL HF2000 has one, but I'm not gonna tear that apart just to fix this. But I might have to source another one. See, I don't remember what all model. Sometimes I just don't remember what model number has a certain specific parts. Let's get this plugged back in. Alright, it's plugged back in, so we're going to load a tape, and we're going to see what's going on. Motor's turning for some reason. Where is play? So yeah, it's got a problem in the Hall effect device, or the capstan motor is not working. And if the capstan motor is not working, then I don't have one that I can put in. So I think it's probably just the Hall effect device that have failed. I don't know. Okay, see that? That's why is that so tight? That seems to be really tight to me. And why that motor is the tape tensioner. Somebody's had this apart and they've had the tape. Somebody's got way too much tape tension on this tape. Somebody has messed with the tape tensioner and it's caused problems. So the Hall effect device has not failed, but that motor doesn't sound like I want it to. Where's the stop? Okay, it seems like it's going now. It might have been the lubricant was stuck. We're probably going to need to do a servicing on the reel table motor for one. Auto tracking doesn't quite seem to be locking in. Alright, let's plug it in and see what's going on. I'm gonna plug it into the TV. The real motor doesn't sound quite right to me, and it's in and out of lock. Somebody's messed with the tape tensioner on this thing, because this tape tensioner should not be that tight. Yeah, we're gonna have to get it a lot better than that. We remove the tensioner, it'll play. So the tape tensioner, somebody has been monkeying around with this thing, and they've screwed up the tape tensioner. Now the reason why the TV looks that way on the bottom is because it's not fully locked up. The servo is not locked up quite right, and that's causing the TV to do that. Because I can hear the motor just kind of making some odd sounds. Now it is going to play, so let's. But the minute you put the tape tensioner back on it, it starts messing up even more, and it keeps wanting to go from beta 2 to beta 1. So we're gonna fix the problem with the tape tensioner. I'm gonna release some of the pressure. I think that tape tensioner is not working quite right. This is the movie Big. But I think if I readjust my TV, I can get that bar to kind of go away. Oh, I forgot to plug in the GCS50. I was going to turn the laser disc on and then switch it between the channels and get it to lock back in, but that's okay. We're gonna see what we can do. We're gonna take the see if I can get the tape tensioner. I think it just needs a real table motor servicing, and the belt tensioner needs to be corrected. See, it wants to go between beta 1 and beta 2, and because the auto tracking is not locking in unless we remove some of the tension, and then it locks up. See? Now, is there a way to disable the automatic tracking? Probably. I think we would disable the tracking. So I was thinking that maybe the Hall effect device was failed, but no, this is a tape tensioner issue. So yeah, we need to find out what's going on here. So let's hit stop. Find out what the heck. Okay, we'll eject it here. Oh, not power, we want to eject. Where the heck is eject? See where in the hell is eject at? Man, it's on the very side there. Okay. Well, that time it sucked it back in. So this is the post that broke off of the cassette housing. The guy was probably being a little rough with it, and he probably broke it, I think. Because he said, oh, I had this going for a little bit, but I can't get the tape out. Yeah, he's been messing with it. And he's been messing with the tape tensioner, too, because that tape tensioner shouldn't be that tight. So we're going to loosen the tensioner just a little bit so that we can get this signal, so the automatic tracking will lock in, and so that it'll play. But so we know what's going on. So there's that broken post, and I don't know, if I glued it back on, it would probably break again. But it is plastic, but I think it's just gonna be something I may not be able to. I think I'm just going to have to pull cassette basket out of another one and put in that one so we can resurrect that. But the cassette housing isn't really that bad of a concern for me right now. The concern that I'm having at this point in time is that reel table motor that needs to be serviced. The tensioner needs to be adjusted. We need to find out just exactly what he has done to this machine. So, sometimes people mess with stuff and they don't really know what they're doing, and they can cause more issues. The nice thing about this machine is it does have a set of inputs, not only on the back, but on the front as well. So that's what I like. Now the reel table motor, it looks like there's just some wires going from here to there. We're going to undo these. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it. Looks like this is pretty basic, simple. The beta machine has gotten a little bit more simplified as far as oh, this is a wire for the video head, so we can just move that out of the way. But yeah, we're just gonna move that up out of the way. We'll tuck those wires in there. Yeah, maybe we'll just move that out of the way so I can get to it. Let's pull the screws off. We gotta pull these screws out. They did have servicing in mind, because they made indentations where the screwdriver can go. And yeah, they've cut out notches for the screwdriver. I think it just needs to have some good lubrication on it, and get it going, because, but I paid $260 altogether, and this was a very expensive machine. Back in the day, I don't think it was only about $600, $700 by the time this one came out, but it's still a lot of money. I mean, anyway, but this one has. So we should be able to just pop this up, and now we can get it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this popped up here. Get this wire out of the way so we can lift it up out of the way. And they made the wires long enough to where you can actually get to them. So this has got the classic design. This has got the black connector, and this is these surface-mounted electrolytics. They do tend to go bad as well, so maybe we'll change those out as well. I don't think I have any more of the 16 at 47s. I may have some of the 25s at 47s. I know I got some of those. So as to why this tensioner is so tight, yeah, he's definitely messed with it, because look, he's put some kind of mark on there. So he's messed with the tape tensioner. So let's adjust that. That's the first thing I want to adjust is go and adjust the tensioner, because this is the first thing that needs to be done. But we are going to lubricate the real table motor assembly. Oh, this has got a number 1 Philip. This is a number 1, not a number 2. Oh yeah, see? He's definitely messed with this. But now I've released some of the tension, and we're just going to tighten it back up. And that should be okay now. So that should be fine, because now it's going to be at the right, it's going to have the right tension on there. It's too much tension on that, and this thing moved on me when I loosened the screw. So he had been monkeying with this thing. Now there's the reels can come out. We're going to do I do want to check the capacitors on this motor here for the idler motor. These caps do tend to fail, but we're going to lift these right up so the belt tensioner can be lifted right out of the way here. We can just lift that right up, and we can get this will just come right out. Just like that. And it looks like he's put grease on there, and you don't want to put grease on it. You want to have oil. Grease is too pasty of a substance, and what it'll do is it'll actually cause the reels to stick. So these have to have oil. Don't put grease on them. Grease is going to make them stick. It'll move so far, and then because it's too pasty, it's too thick, it can't do its proper job when it's doing that. So now we've got that out of the way. Now these are your detection. These are your tape these are your real sensors. They detect the rotation of the reels. So just be careful when you're working around those not to break those, because if you break those, then you can have an issue. So now here we've got the surface mounted, or not surface mounted, but we have regular mounted electrolytics. So we're going to go ahead and we'll pull the cut washer off here. Make sure that the cut washer doesn't go flying off the room. And then you can take the pendulum gear off. Okay. And you can grab a hold of this. And I just want to make sure this is free. So yeah, somebody's put grease on there, and what that's going to do is gum up. It's a smooth surface, and it has to have oil. We're gonna fix that. We're actually gonna get a paper towel, and we're gonna lift this up here. Now you gotta put this somewhere where it's not around any magnets or anything like that. But we are going to clean that magnet with some alcohol, clean it a little bit. These are your coils and for the rotation of the idler motor. And these are your caps here. You've got an IC integrated circuit here. You've got some resistors. And that's pretty much it. And these are your little Hall effect sensors. These are the Hall effect device that go out on these. So I'm glad this is not, you know, one out. I'm very happy that this motor is still working, because it really bothered me that because I don't think I mean, I have one, but it's in my 1000, and I'm definitely not going to tear a 1000 apart just to fix one of these, because I would just get old of another motor later on. But I'm glad that that's still working. So what we're going to do is get some rubbing alcohol on a paper towel, and I'm going to clean and wipe these clean. So that's what we're going to do. We'll set the camera over here, I think. Just kind of give you a look as to what I'm actually doing here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and clean the posts with some alcohol. I'm going to put some alcohol on this paper towel here, and we're going to fix. I'm just going to put a little oil, alcohol there, and I'm going to wipe off the old grease that he has stuck on here, which is causing the problem. You want to oil this up. You want to put oil on it, not grease, because like I said, grease will actually cause the reels to stick, and they're not going to work properly if you do that. So I have to have oil. It has to be something, a lubricant. Yes, you have to have a lubricant on there, but you have to have something that's thin, that the reels are going to ride up on. Put some alcohol on the sensors, and that's going to detect the rotation of the sensors there. There we go. That one wasn't even pushed in all the way. Or was it? Yeah. Oh, nice. Looks like the tape sensors here have been messed with as well. He's had the circuit board is loose for these tape-in sensors. Or they're not tape-in sensors, they're sensors for the take-up and supply reels. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, I don't know. Getting this going would be my ultimate goal here. And getting it working by itself on its own power without any assistance from me. I'm just going to wipe the coils down a little bit. Wipe that clean. Pendulum gear, we need to take that apart as well. I know that this view is not the best view, but it's the only view I can give you that. And we're gonna clean the, we're cleaning this, cleaning the posts on both sides. We'll clean off post on that side, and we'll go ahead and clean that. I'll make sure that the alright, let's put a little bit of this. Okay. A little too much oil, so I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Put just one drop on each of these posts. Well, look at that. I picked up the piece and the metal washer here is gone. So I have one. We're going to put one on. This guy's definitely been into this and definitely doesn't know that much about what he's doing. And I don't want to, you know, put the guy down, but you know, if you don't know enough about what you're doing, if it's something that you feel like is beyond your knowledge, it's best to leave it alone, because you can cause more issues than you do fix them. So we're gonna go ahead and get this lubricated. We gotta clean the post on this and then put a drop of oil on it, and then we'll put this gear back on, and then we'll put the, I've already put this back on, and we're gonna do the reels as well. I got the reels done. We'll put those on, and then we'll wrap up the reel table motor service. Okay, I'm gonna check the caps. That one's good. That one is bad. That one's open. And that one is open as well. So there's one good one that is going bad, and the other two are completely open. So we will replace these and put this back together. Okay guys, well I've replaced the capacitors on the they had these, all four of them have been changed, and then I've also had a cassette housing that I had that was good, so I swapped that out as well. Now there was four of these that I changed. I had to use the 25 volt at 47 because I didn't have any more 16s, but I did have some 25s, so I put a little bit higher voltage capacitors in for the reel table motor, idler motor, and of course we've got the cassette housing I changed. You notice that this thing actually does seem to power on after you hit power, because it doesn't show up unless you do that. So It's weird because this chassis has some characteristics of the VHS machines that Sony made. The outside casing and the way the bottom panel comes on and off, it looks a lot like it has characteristics of the VHS machines that they used. So VHS machines, they probably designed them somewhat. Some of the characteristics of the beta machine went into their VHS decks. Just seems that way. So let's we're gonna put in a cassette. So I think if I had the remote, there was a remote included with this machine, but it's not the proper remote for it. So I'll have to see if I can track one down. But let's see if we can get this thing to play. Seems like the auto tracking is kicked in. Let's go down, and that drum motor don't sound too good, but there's the picture. Do we have forward search? Yep. Do we have backwards? Yep. So this thing appears to be working now, so this is fantastic. And I'm very happy with the way this thing's performing. It's got the beta 2, auto tracking. I don't know why, but the it doesn't have a automatic tracking on or off. It doesn't, you can't manually track it. So it automatically tracks. I might need to put a little bit of oil in that bearing. That rotary transformer might be starting to poop out because it's making a lot of noise. That I think the bearing is starting to wear out in the drum, in the rotary transformer. But the picture quality is beautiful, and the fact that it'll automatically track the tape, so any beta tape I put in here, it will automatically track it. So that is nice that it has automatic tracking. And now that we know that this thing works good, we're going to now go ahead and do some cleaning. I do want to clean as much of the old green grease that's dried up here out as much as I can. I'll put a little bit of new stuff in there. Now the sound's kind of going away, so maybe it's with that head moving, any lubricant that may be dried up a little bit, or lubricant that maybe stuck to one area, is working its way into the bearing of the video head drum motor. May need to be changed, I don't know. I think at some point that this head motor is going to go out. I don't think it's going to continue to stay working. It may go out later on. I just have a hunch, because every time you hear a bearing making a sound, you know that bearing is going to go out eventually. Even if we lubed it, it would still probably, it may fail in the future, I don't know. But it does kind of make me wonder why it's sounding that way. But this thing does have a tape stabilizer, which is pretty cool. That's and I do have that SOHF870D that I'd like to get going if I can, one of these days. That one actually will play without a cassette, but with a cassette it won't play. The take-up reel wants to spin in the reverse speed. So maybe the detectors that detect the rotation of the take-up and slide reels are going out. Maybe that's why that thing is doing that. But it literally, the take-up reel will spin the opposite direction. So I still gotta figure out, see if I can get that one going. But I got this one going, and it sounds good. Now I am gonna do some cleaning. Clean the head, we'll clean the tape path. I do want to put a little bit of oil and new grease in there. Yeah, for this worm gear. The worm gear does need a little bit of grease. I did find my white lithium grease, so I'll put some in. I'll put some of that on there, and we'll get that taken care of, and we'll clean this. But this is just doing very well. This is where this is the movie Big. I don't want to get hit with a copyright. I won't show up very long, but he's crying because he's missing his family, and he knows that with him being big, his family doesn't recognize him. They don't think, he's real. He does a very good performance in this film. So there we go. It's fixed. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a, now you noticed the gear from the other cassette housing didn't, we seen that the post had broke, and so there was nothing for this. You can see the new one there, back in there, but see it right there, I think. But anyway, that was not able to do anything because the post was broken, and of course I showed you the broken piece, but I could see that it was struggling just a little bit to pull to retract the tape, and so I'm going to put a little grease in there, clean it up so that we can get this to where it'll perform like it did when it was new. So but it is working, and it looks like the counter has reset itself. I think it's got an automatic counter, and look what else it has. It has a blue screen. It does have a blue screen, just like some of the please set the clock. Wow. Yeah, well, I don't think I'm going to be setting the clock with this, because this is for a different... This is what came with it, and this is not the proper remote. And this is just your generic Betamax remote. And it's an RMT124. Now, I do have a Sony VHS. This is a Sony VHS one, and the original remote looks more like this one. But we could probably might be able to get this one to work, but I don't think so. I think this works off of a different code. It works differently. But this is for this came with my Sony SLV-R5UC, which is a Super VHS machine. But this has got a menu. See, because I want to be able to go to the menu and set the clock, and I think this does have a menu. It must have a some kind of a built-in menu. Now, if we do input, it tells you it has an on-screen display. Cool, pretty neat. That is a cool thing about this thing, is that it does seem to have, well, it doesn't seem to have much. Oh, we'll have to see if we can set the channels, reset the channels. So you can't really set the clock by buttons on the front. So I can't really set the clock without the remote. So I don't know if that other remote will work on this. I think it might, but I don't know. But yeah, in order to set the clock, I have to have the remote for this thing, and you can't do it without it. So I will have to get a remote. This is Lady. Hey, Lady. Hey, you big puppy. Yeah, she's not a year old yet, so she's still a puppy. Anyway, yeah, so that is really neat. If we hit play, please put in a cassette. Cool. This is neat. This is the modern convenience of, it's a beta machine with some VHS characteristics. So that's pretty cool. And we got input select for line 1, which is in the back. Line 2 is in the front. So we'll put it on line 2. Because if we put something, we plug it into the front there, it's got a VTR button switch. VTR 1, 2, and 3. So I can put some remote in those batteries, and batteries in that remote, I mean, and then we'll see if maybe we can get this thing to set the clock. But yeah, it does not have any display. Just like that VHS machine, that Sony VHS machine that I had, where it wouldn't light, nothing lit up unless you hit power. So, and it lights up the minute you hit power. And I do like the fact that it does have a clock on screen display. I like that. It has a blue screen instead of just being a blank screen with tuner noise coming from it. So pretty cool. So I am going to get some grease on there and clean the heads. We're going to clean the tape path. Now, I don't have any Q-tips left, so I'm going to have to do what I can as far as cleaning. I'll try and clean and get the... Probably have to use just a piece of paper towel and just push it down in there and clean it. So it's going to be a little difficult. Now, you'll notice that this head drum doesn't have that sheen on it, and it doesn't have where the tape rides up against the drum. You can't see where the tape goes up against it, so that's good. So the drum hasn't had, I don't think this thing has had a whole lot of use. This thing has probably been broke down for quite some time. And but I think I am going to put this into my entertainment center. I'm going to hook it up to my 1000, and we'll have this. This might be my new one of my players, one of my main players. So we'll have to make a test recording on it as well and see. Pretty cool. So yeah, let's get some of the cleaning done, and maybe I'll... This is pretty dusty and dirty, so we'll do some cleaning. I need to do like a lot. They will need cleaned in the inside, but for right now I'm just gonna do cleaning on it and on the head and tape path. Well, I had a couple Q-tips left, and I was able to clean the grease. All that dried up grease is now out of there. So people have been asking me, what kind of grease do you use? Here it is. This is Lucas Oil Products Incorporated. It's high performance. It's just a white lithium grease. It's a multi-purpose. Yeah, I got this online, but you can get them at auto parts houses like Napa and other auto parts houses. You know, and you can get them, you can get this at a lot of various different places, but this is just white lithium grease. There's nothing really special about it. Now, of course, you guys don't have to use this particular brand if you don't want to. I just like Lucas products, so that's what I use. So I'm going to put a little bit. This has got a tip on there that's we're going to take the tip off here. This has got a nice little tip on there that I can apply the product. And there goes my cap. Okay. So I just cut the tip off so that I'd have something to put on there. So it turned into kind of a pasty substance, but gotta kind of shake it up a little bit, squeeze it until the good stuff comes out. Yeah, this grease has been in there a while, so that's all we need, just a little bit of grease. Now that will work its way in. I'm gonna put a little on the gears here for so put a little too much on there, but that's I'll get that off. I gotta take some of that off. You definitely don't want too much grease. Too much grease is worse than not enough. So, just keep that in mind. Or is that a Q-tip? That'll come in handy. I'll use my old Q-tip here. I'll take some of that off. There we go. We'll spread it around. We'll spread some on the gears. Okay, there we go. We'll spread a little bit on the worm gear here. It'll work its way in as the VCR starts to play. It'll work its way in. So anyway, but there we go. So we've done a complete service on this thing. I've cleaned the head drum. I've cleaned the video heads. Now, what I was saying about maybe the rotary transformer, the drum motor, the bearings are shot or needing lubricated. Listen to this drum as it spins. If you can hear it. But I can hear it's not really picking it up on the camera. Hear that? That is the rotary transformer. So this may need to have a new drum put in. Now this is a two-head machine, so I more than likely have a set of, I have a drum motor that I can put on this, but as far as like the bearing itself, the bearing is either the bearing is dry, or I actually suspect that this has been sitting in a unheated storage facility for quite some time, and that's why you hear the the drum motor like that. So, you know, and that's not good. That's not a good thing. But anyway, so we'll load the tape a couple of times, and all that grease will work its way into the worm gear and all the other gears, and then the grease will work its way into the loading gears for the cassette housing, because we want to keep this thing from breaking. What happens on these, and the reason why a lot of times why they break, because the lubricant actually dries up in them, and then there creates friction, and it's like a pasty hardened substance where the grease starts to harden and it gums up, and the motor will continuously load and unload whether the gear is free or not. And if the gear gets bound up, the strength comes from the motor, because the motor is so strong and it kicks over so quick that it'll force it to turn, and then it breaks, and that's what happens. That's why the posts, they break. It's a common failure with the I don't know if you can see it, but the that white gear down in there, you can see it. Those posts on the outside there, they break, they snap off, and you know, that's because the lubricant dries, and it just and the plastic, not only that, but the plastic is very brittle. It's getting brittle. They're cheap plastic that was used to make these. Some of these parts were just cheap plastic, especially with the later model betas, the last generation beta machines, as they start to age a little bit, and they started using cheaper stuff, cheaper plastics, and the plastic just gets brittle and it breaks, and a lot of times, yeah, the lubricant gets gummed up, and it basically destroys the machine. You know, the pieces, they break off, and there's not much you can do. There's really nothing you can do at that point. But as you can see here, that we do have some dirt that I gotta remove. I do want to get some Novus in here and start cleaning, so let's get some Novus on it. And I'm just gonna use some of these paper towels. What I don't like is my mom and I picked out these paper towels, and she picked out the cloth type paper towel, and I don't like those. I like the actual paper towels, but for cleaning, it might work out okay. It might work out better for cleaning purposes. So we'll just spray a little bit of the Novus. Get it into some of the areas that it needs to be in. And the fact that this thing does have on-screen display, that's pretty cool. I do like that part of it. You know, this is definitely a more like modern beta. This was the end of beta. This model was it. This was the end of the beta format. After this model, at least for the US. Now, Japan, it was a very big success in Japan. And Japanese people, they like to have the best of everything. So they love the beta format over there in Japan. I think the Americans didn't give a shit about the picture quality. They just wanted to be able to record for long periods of time. And unfortunately, and then the prices of Sony and the fact that Sony wanted everybody to pay them royalties for making their own beta decks. They really didn't want other manufacturers making beta decks. I think that's one of the reasons why they had such a high cost, you know. I mean, what I'm saying is that they costed a lot of money for other manufacturers. They had to pay royalties, and not everybody wanted to do that. And I think if Sony would have just been a little bit nicer and licensed the technology to other companies, you know, I think if they would have just let other companies like Panasonic start making beta decks, I think they might have won the format war. But you know, I think it was just bad marketing on their point. You know, oh, we're just gonna clean up the switches here. Let's get this nice and clean. Yeah, these cotton ones work okay for cleaning, but if I'm trying to like put some rubbing alcohol on it to clean my soldering tips, it don't work out because it just burns it. And the paper kind of helped clean the soldering iron tip better than, you know, anything else. So there we go. Got that part working okay. And this has got this is a nice little machine, you know. This front door obviously is kind of nice. It does kind of give it a whole new look and a whole new meaning. There we go. We got it all nice and clean. We'll get every speck of dirt out, at least on the front anyway. Yeah, see, that cleaner works out okay. Novus does do a good job, and the reason why I found Novus is because Fat Spare recommended it. He uses it on his electronics, and he uses it to clean his stuff, and he was always talking about it on, well, there was this one beta video. He was doing a Sanyo beta video, and he was talking about, because he was using it on his Sanyo and it was cleaning his machines all up nice, and he was talking about how he used Novus 3-2-in-1, which is basically scratch polish remover, you know, scratch remover. And so this is nice. This is nice. So yeah, we'll clean this up here. It's all nice and clean. Got all the dust out. Now I'll probably just clean the yeah, so the guy had been in here messing with stuff. He was messing with the tape tensioner, which he never should have done. He's caused more problems. If I hadn't have caught that, I might have been chasing things that weren't there had I not pulled back on that tape tensioner. And as soon as I unscrewed the screw, when I loosened the screw, immediately the tape tensioner went back into its home position. Because the tape tensioner on these particular models, it has a certain area where it just naturally goes to. And so when I loosened the screw, and then boom, it pulled it back a little bit, and I tightened the screw back up, and that was just perfect, because now it's doing beautiful. So I do want to do is get this nice and clean and try and get all the dust out. Try to get this thing so it's nice. But yeah, let's use a little bit on the plate here for the steel plate. Now this is, so this power supply is very similar to the power supply that they put in the SLS 600. Also very similar to the power supply they put in the SLVR5UC, which was a Super VHS deck, and it had this power supply. Now the SLVR1000 Super VHS machines that Sony made, those ones had a better power supply. Power supply on those were a lot better. But yeah, this has got the same characteristics as that Super VHS, or the regular VHS, not Super VHS, but there's the regular VHS that I have. Now the problem with that particular one is I found out I'm able to get it to rewind tapes now, but one of the issues with it is that the capstan motor is failing. So the capstan motor is not working like it's supposed to, and it's not pulling the tape back in as fast as it should. It pulls in a little bit of tape and then that's it, but it pulls it in too slow. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, let's get this cleaned up a little bit. I just want, so here's the head amplifier, which is here. And the preamp is more than likely on the very bottom board. It's probably where the preamp is. I do need to get some rubber renew so I can recondition the pinch roller. But the pinch roller on this one looks like it's in pretty good shape. It's actually still somewhat soft, and it's not much sheen on it, so it's, the pinch roller is actually in fairly good condition on this. I just need to put a little rubber renew on there to kind of recondition it and kind of get it back going again. So there we go. So I'm gonna put the lid on now that, but I am gonna work this thing in. I am gonna load and unload the tape here a couple times just to make sure that it's working good and that it's not doing too bad, and we'll just get this cleaned up a little bit. We'll just put in yeah, let's put in jumping jack flash. Gas, gas, gas. That was the this is a Fuji tape though. Fuji tape sometimes can shed oxide, so maybe it may not be the best tape to use. I don't want to put a test tape in because I just cleaned the head, so. But these Fujis can have problems too where they shed oxide. So let's plug this thing in, and we'll load the tape a couple times just to get the grease to work in there and get it. I don't like the fact that they have a detachable. The power cord is detachable. I don't like that. I'd rather have a cord that comes out of the back of the machine, but it's not what they did. That dust in here. You can see the clock display, but that's all you can see until you power it on. Nice. Automatic tracking kicked in. there we go. The grease has worked its way in. We'll do it one more time. So the grease has got to work its way in a little bit. The more you use it, the better it'll become, because now with all that new grease, all the old grease is out of it. In fact, I got a little too much grease in there, so I'll probably take a little bit of grease off of there, because there's a little too much on there. But we got it working really good. So hey, let's just hook this thing up to the TV and see what it looks like, because I think it's gonna look pretty awesome here. So let's go. And I don't want to show too much. Maybe we'll mute the video so that that way won't have any issues with copyright. I don't want to get any copyright issues, but so there we go. So I guess I could put in my batteries and see if we can get this, see if that bigger remote will work. But yeah, it's cool because, oh, is this at the, no, this is at the beginning. I thought it was, oh, that's a preview. Picture quality is excellent. Like I said, I don't want to have it on too much. I don't want to get hit with a copyright. But and then if we hit rewind, you have to whoopie over. So we have to basically hold the rewind or fast forward to do picture search. It's too bad they wouldn't let you just hit it once and then have it continuously fast forwarding, but it don't. So you still have to hold it, because if you do that, well, and it doesn't. So you have to play and hold it. Comb her hair. She actually likes her hair that way. So this is working beautifully, and we hit stop. I don't know why the head is continuously spinning even after you hit stop, but I think the reason why they done this is maybe to help kind of eliminate tape stiction. Maybe that was one of the ways that they done that. I don't know, but I like that. It's got a play symbol. So stop. Doesn't have anything for stop, but if you hit play, it's got a play symbol on the screen there. Oh, the guy's fallen asleep on her. If we do it this way, then we won't get hit with a copyright. That's pretty bad fast forward, but that's a 2 head, so if it was a a 3-head or a 4-head model, the scan lines wouldn't be, there wouldn't be as many scan lines, and the picture would be a little bit better. What does pause look like? Yeah, pause is horrible. It's not too bad. I guess it depends on. That blonde-haired lady. She's beautiful. That blonde-haired lady. She's played in a lot of 80s films. So yeah, this thing is beautiful, guys. It's performing like it should. It's sticking just a little bit when it's going through. Normally, I wouldn't recommend putting any kind of grease in the on the track here, because you can get it on the tape. So I usually don't recommend putting grease in there, but I might put just a couple of dots in there to kind of help, and put it up in underneath there, so that I don't want it on the top here of this track, but because the tape is so close to it that it can get the grease can get on the tape. But it does kind of worry me a little bit that it's struggling just a little bit to retract the tape, and that might be a problem in the future. So I'll probably just get just a tad bit of grease and try to get it in the grooves. They don't put grease on here from the factory because, like I said, it would get onto the tape. You see how close that tape would ride next to it? It would get on the tape if you put grease, and I've seen people do that. They put grease on the track. And when you do that, basically what that'll do is get on the tape, and then it'll make a mess of your video heads. It'll make it harder than hell to get it off your heads and your drum. It'll get everywhere. So, but what I could do is take the plastic guide and remove the plastic guide and put a little grease in there. But I think if I just put a little grease in, take my little dental pick, put a little grease on there, and then just put it a little bit underneath this guide here. Just enough to get in there underneath that guide, but or maybe I'll just put a little oil in there. I think a little oil might be a little better. Get some oil in there, because that way but the oil can get on the tape as well, so I gotta kind of be a little careful as to how much I put on there. But it's because it's possible for this, they do break. These tape guides, they have a spring on the outside of the plastic piece. There's a plastic piece, and it has a spring that rides over the top of the plastic piece. A lot of times that plastic will break, and then the loading ring will no longer work. But as you can see, we've got grease now lubricating the gear, the worm gear. Got the worm gear this, and the grease is in the gears on the cassette housing, so this is good. I will put a little bit more grease on. I'm gonna put a little grease on the tracks here, but I'll do that off camera. I don't want to make this video so long that you guys fall asleep, so Yeah, for right now, this is performing beautifully. Put a little bit more voltage in those. I went up a little on the voltage on the capacitors. It's supposed to be, for the idler motor, it was supposed to be 16 at 47, and I put some 25 volt at 47 UF. So normally they're 16 volt, and I put a 25 volt in there. Went up a little bit on the voltage, and I put in 105 degree capacitors, because that's all I had. I didn't have any of the 85 degree. For the idler motor, they don't have to be over 85 degrees, but I mean, most of the caps they sell nowadays are 105 degrees, so if I'm working in the power supply, I want them to be 105 degree. You don't want to put 85 degree caps in a power supply. They need to be a higher temperature rating. So if you're working in the power supply, yeah, you'd want to put like 105 degree caps in. But for just the idler motor, nah, we don't need. But I mean, they're 105 degree caps anyway, so I'm just saying you wouldn't need them. But yeah, all the circuitry here. There's some ribbon cables. Everything is more simplified. This is a lot like a VHS machine. That VHS machine we worked on, you can see that the boards are in the same exact way. This has a lot of characteristics of some of the VHS machines that they made. So this kind of is starting to look a lot like a VHS machine, but it is a beta machine. There we go. So I'm gonna put it back together, and yeah, I did change out the door, because the door that was on this cassette housing had Super Beta Hi-Fi on it, and I just put the original door back in because that's the door they had from the factory. Yeah, that one might look a little better, but with the Super Beta, I like the Super Beta Hi-Fi logo. This actually came out of an SL HF360. I sacrificed it so that I can fix this. So, anyway, but hey, look at this thing. This thing is just a fantastic, beautiful machine. So let's get it all put together, and we'll put some batteries in that remote, and we'll see if that bigger remote will work. Because I am curious to see if I can get the clock to set the clock. So now that I have one of these, it's really, really cool, and I'm really happy and glad with the way this is performing. So there was capacitors that needed to be replaced in the idler motor. The idler reel table motor assembly had to be serviced. So we did a servicing in the reel table motor. We did do a cassette housing replacement, and now this thing is working and performing beautifully. So I'm going to start watching some videos in this beautiful piece of machinery. I am going to hook it up to the HF2000, and we'll have this as like a second playback deck. So this will look really good with my HF1000, and I don't know, I might leave the screws out of it, because when it's a playback deck, a lot of times some of these tapes are pretty old. Sometimes they can shed oxide, dirty the head, so you know, just to have easy access to the heads where I can just pull the lid off and clean the heads, but I might just get another one of those head cleaning cassettes. Get a head cleaning cassette. That might be a better solution, you know, for when I'm running tapes in that are kind of old and shedding their oxide. That's why they get dirty. That's why the heads get dirty, is because the oxide sheds from the tape, or if the tape is just basically really old, or maybe the tape has been chewed up and exposed to the dust, and yeah, but the main cause of why video heads go dirty is because of the material shedding off of the tape itself. So, anyway, but yeah, the next thing that we could do is try out the we could try out the recording, and I'm sure that the record probably works on this thing. There's Super Beta on or off. So we could have, so the one thing this thing doesn't have, it doesn't seem to have a beta hi-fi switch that you can turn on and off, but you can turn Super Beta on or off. So I could hit Super Beta and just do beta hi-fi. Hit Super Beta and turn it on. Tape speeds, beta 3. Beta 2. Hey, look. 3, 2. So beta 2, beta 3. And then we'll do beta 2. That's the setting that I will use. I wish this thing had beta 1 recording capability, but it will play back beta 1 tapes. So that's cool. That's, you know, but yeah, I want to set the clock, and yeah, it's got auto tracking. So the automatic tracking feature on this thing is pretty neat. I think it's pretty neat, you know. We've got our input select for line 1 and line 2, and it says stereo at the top. I just wish that beta would have become the standard, because if beta had become the standard, it would have really been enjoyable to see these evolve from having tons of wires, tons of circuit boards, to having almost no circuitry. You know, having like one board do everything, or, you know, like the modern VHS machines. So it would have been interesting to see these things. It would be nice to be able to get a hold of like a 2002 model from Japan just to see what the build quality is. I'm sure the build quality isn't going to be as good as the ones from the 80s, but it would be interesting to see these things evolve from time. So we'll put the top cover back on, and then we'll test out that remote.